Hi everyone, welcome to Tales of Dread. Everyone, today is a special day because we are finally going to look at another cryptid in detail. Let's talk about the Skunk Ape's story. In the middle of the night, just before Christmas in the year 2000, a loud noise on the back porch of a house in Florida woke everyone up. It sounded like a human intruder was stumbling around and knocking over the patio furniture, but the chaos outside was accompanied by a series of low grunts that couldn't have come from a person. There was a sickening smell in the air, a mix of skunk and garbage that made your eyes water. It filled the whole house with a terrible smell that made it hard to breathe. When the scared people finally got the courage to look out the window, they saw something that made them stare with their mouths open in shock. A huge primate was stealing apples from a basket on their back deck. The encounter led to clear pictures of a creature that looked like an ape, which were sent to the Sarasota County Sheriff's Department on December 22, 2000, along with a letter asking to remain anonymous. The woman who sent the letter said that the intruder had been stealing apples from their deck for about 3 nights in a row. The creature in the photos became known as the Myokka Skunk Ape, and the incident became another chapter in the history of a living mystery that has been haunting the swamplands of Florida for hundreds of years. The Seminole and Miccosukee tribes of the area have been telling stories about the skunk ape for hundreds of years. The skunk ape is said to be shorter than the Sasquatch in the Northwest, but it is still a powerful beast in its own right. A 2-legged humanoid that can grow to be between 6.5 and 7 feet tall. It has long, strong arms and a thick coat of reddish-brown fur. It is best known for its strong smell, which is thought to be caused by the smell of methane, a heavy gas found in swamps, getting into its fur. The world of skunk apes is full of dangerous things. Several types of poisonous snakes, alligators, crocodiles, wild boar panthers, and, in recent years, a thriving population of pythons live there. The skunk ape would have to have a huge appetite because it is near the top of the food chain and eats everything. It can eat insects, plants, and just about any animal that is unfortunate enough to get in the way of the monstrous hominids. On video, what is thought to be a skunk ape rips off big pieces of bark from the trunk of a cypress tree. This amazing feat of strength was done while the person was sitting down. There isn't much doubt that a strong, well-adapted animal like this could easily carve out a comfortable place for itself in the Florida swamps. Eyewitness. Since the early 1900s, stories about this legendary beast have come from the Sunshine State. In 1942, a driver in Suwannee County said he saw a skunk ape hitch a ride on one of his running boards for about half a mile. This was the first story about a skunk ape that could be proven to be true and was published. In 1957, 2 hunters camping. A hairy ape broke into the camp of the Big Cypress National Reserve. Between 1963 and 1979, there were several reports in 3 different counties. Since then, there have been many more sightings, and some of them have been documented with photos and videos. All of the witnesses come from very different backgrounds. They include people who work in the outdoors, a minister, a bus full of foreign tourists, and even the chief of the Okapi Fire Control District. Most sightings of skunk apes happen in the southern part of Florida, but they have been seen as far north as Tallahassee. Most of them, on the other hand, are about Florida. Everglades? The Everglades are a 1.5 million acre area of tropical wetland at the southern tip of Florida. The wildlife in the Everglades is very diverse. It includes the Florida panther, wild boars, the bottlenose dolphin, bobcats, coyotes, the eastern diamondback rattlesnake, the west Indian manatee, and even a type of black bear. In this watery, humid wilderness, there are many places that people rarely go. A skunk ape wouldn't seem out of place in a place where big cats, bears, pilot whales, flying squirrels, and flamingos live. In fact, Many species of great apes live in wet, tropical places that aren't all that different from the Everglades. To understand a myth or legend better, it helps to look at the place where it came from and the people who live there. The skunk ape is from the state of Florida, which has a very interesting geological history. Florida got its start as a part of the polar continent Gondwana, which existed between 551 million and 180 million years ago. Gondwana collided with the continent Laurenshire between 300 million and 200 million BC, and by 200 million BC, it had started moving north. The place where the two continents met was north of the equator. At that time, Florida was in the middle of a new supercontinent called Pangaea. It was surrounded on all sides by desert. When Pangaea broke up 215 million years ago, it made the Florida platform, which is a flat geological structure that rises thousands of feet from the ocean floor. The Florida Peninsula is the part of this platform that is coming into its own. During the Ice Age, 2.58 million years ago, the sea level drops 330 feet lower than it is now. This makes the Florida Peninsula nearly twice as big as it is now. The end result was a big, dry plateau that was surrounded by the Gulf of Mexico to the west and the Atlantic Ocean to the east. Paul Crow Indians were the first people to live in Florida. They came at the end of this glacial period, about 15,000 years ago. Florida was much colder and drier, and most of the fresh water that could be found was in sinkholes or in limestone basins. During this time, everything people did revolved around these rare watering holes. Around 10,000 years ago, the glaciers melted, which raised the sea level and made the land area smaller. Because of this, Florida's climate became much warmer and wetter, and the Paleo-Indian culture was replaced by the early Archaic period, when there was more water. People started living in places where no one had ever lived before. As the early Archaic period turned into the Middle Archaic period, people began to live in small villages near freshwater wetlands. By the late Archaic period, about 2,000 years ago, these villages were surrounded by freshwater wetlands. The weather in Florida was about the same as it is today, and people lived in large villages that were protected by earthworks. The people who lived in the southern and eastern parts of Florida were not affected by outsiders until 1513, when the Spanish conquistador Juan Ponce de Leon led the first official trip into this uncharted territory. He landed on the east coast and then sailed around most of the peninsula because he thought that the land he had named La Florida was the right place for the taken. In 1521, Ponce de Leon went back to the southwest coast to start a colony. But the Calusa, who at the time were the largest native tribe in southern Florida, saw things differently. They attacked the people who wanted to settle there and shot arrows at them until they left. Ponce de Leon was killed when an arrow poisoned with sap from the medicinal tree hit him in the head. He died of his wounds in Puerto Rico, which was then ruled by the Spanish. The Spanish kept sending expeditions to Florida, where they were determined to find gold and use the land's natural resources. But the Everglades were too hard to figure out, so they were mostly left alone until the 19th century. In 1897, Hugh Willoughby, an explorer, wrote, "We have a beautiful 130-mile long, 70-mile wide land that is as unknown to white people as the heart of Africa." During this time, the last members of several native tribes joined together to form the Seminole tribe. They hid from Europeans in the Everglades to avoid getting in the way of the colonists who were descended from Europeans. People tell stories about giant primates that lived in the swamps. These creatures were hard to find and were very big and strong. People called it a cupcake or the tall man. They think the tall man was the guardian of the swamps, a mysterious leader who kept a close eye on anyone who came into his territory, much like the swamp dweller character. It didn't take long for the new people who moved to Florida to start running into the skunk ape. In the second half of the 20th century, there have been many sightings, some with photos and some with video. But what does the skunk ape really look like? From where did it come? How did these hairy two-legged animals end up living in the Everglades, if the skunk ape is a living, breathing mammal? It makes sense that it must have grown from something else. Primates aren't known to live in North America right now, but that wasn't always the case. At the start of the Eocene, 56 million years ago, a new family of early primates called the Obama yet showed up on what would become the United States of America. During this time, temperatures around the world were much higher than they are now. Crocodiles lived in the Arctic pine forest in the Antarctic, and most of what is now North America was covered by a tropical forest. It is thought that this group of primates went extinct when the climate got cooler during the next Oligocene epoch. It also seems that primitive primates went extinct in the New World. Some people think that these small people who live in trees might have been around during the Great American Interchange. When a narrow land bridge connected North and South America, they could have also gotten to the southern shore. Thus, people who got lost and ended up on floating islands. They used to be floating islands of soil and plants that were torn away from the coast by violent megastorms. During the Legacy, large mammals started to get bigger, taking advantage of the large areas of land and resources that became available when the dinosaurs died out. The relatively small mammals of the Eocene gave way to the megafauna, which included giant sloths, a species of short-faced bear that weighed about 3,500 pounds, and a small horned rhinoceros that stood 18 feet tall at the shoulder. It's possible that the first small primates in North America also gave way to bigger versions of themselves around this time. Is it possible that some early North American primates went south and evolved on one of the many islands, south of the Florida Peninsula? During the Ice Age, when the advancing glaciers trapped hundreds of feet of seawater and covered large parts of the planet, the hulking descendants of the Almamids could have returned to the north by taking the same path as the Paleo-Indians who settled Florida 15,000 years ago. Just as people deal with and adapt to changes in climate and habitat that are bad for them, so do the animals that live near us. Some creatures go extinct, but others change a lot. For example, a short furry coat can turn into a long shaggy one, a small animal can grow into a big one, poor eyesight can turn into telescopic focus, and the way a creature lives in its habitat can change a lot. People used to live in trees, and birds of prey with wings used to come down to the ground and become huge, flightless predators that could run down their prey on foot. It's not out of the question that a small primate from the EOC may have changed over time to become much bigger and able to walk on two legs. When Florida got warmer and wetter, this kind of animal could easily adapt to living in a swamp, where there was plenty of food and few predators. A great ape could live in secret for a very long time and keep getting stronger. Skunk Ape's ancestors may have continued to move across the continent over time, changing and adapting to their new environments as they moved north. This could explain the myth of the Sasquatch, a tall, two-legged humanoid that has been seen in the Northwest for hundreds of years. The Sasquatch is a bit bigger than its southern counterpart and lives in the forests and mountains of the Pacific Northwest. Even though they live far away from the wetlands of Florida, the two look a lot alike, and they may be cousins on the same branch of the evolutionary tree. The megafauna of the past died out because of climate change or because our ancestors killed them all. If the skunk ape is a distant descendant of a much smaller North American primate from the past, then it makes sense that this new top predator also threatened it. Paleo-Indians and the ancient people who came after them would not have been able to hunt as much in the Everglades because it was so unfriendly. When the Seminole tribe fled to the Everglades to get away from the muskets of the Europeans who were trying to take over their land. In this way, it's possible that they would have sometimes run into the shy brutes in their shared habitat. Even though there are many eyewitness accounts, footprint casts, pictures, and even video that claimed to show the skunk ape in action, the tall man became a legend. No sample has ever been brought forward so that scientists could study it. Of course, this doesn't mean that there isn't a sample like this. No one has ever dug through the swamps to look for bones. And because plants grow quickly and people live in warm places, it would be hard to find human remains. Even in dry areas, layers of moss and decaying plant matter would quickly cover them up. It's the age-old question of what's been proven and what's possible. Even if it seems unlikely, anything is possible. But if we don't have proof that can't be argued with, we can't say anything exists outside of our own minds. Even though I am a confirmed skeptic, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if someone brought some bones or an unidentifiable hair sample of the cryptid to light one day. This would prove that the dozens of people who claim to have seen the elusive beast with their own eyes are telling the truth. Skepticism isn't the same as stubbornly denying something. A real skeptic doesn't believe anything at face value, but he or she is open to any idea that can be shown to be based in reality. On the other hand, without the gift of wonder, people would still be living in the Stone Age. Our planet is a stage where strange things happen, and over its long and interesting history, a lot of strange people have been on it. I think it is possible that evolution could have led to the skunk ape. Even if that chance is very small, it is still a possibility, and it can't be ruled out without evidence to the contrary. At the end of the day, no one has shown that this story is true or that it isn't true. You have to decide for yourself what you think is true, unless you happen to meet the tall man in person. I wish you the best of luck if you do, and I hope you get a chance to get a hair sample. But be careful, because the skunk ape might want to take a sample for itself. Thank you for watching another one of our documentaries about investigations. We hope you had a good time. And if you did, please like, share, and leave your thoughts in the comments below until next time. Keep an open mind and always be ready to question the way things are. Thanks again. We'll see you again soon.